Hello friends, hope you're well. I wanted to share with you an article that I read in the New York Times on December 16th. It was titled, China Hunts for Art Treasures in U.S. Museums. The article represented for me another example of how China can be a fantastic role model for less developed nations, and in particular several African countries that are looking to be respected, listened to, and regarded within the Global League of Nations. The specific article talked about how since 2005, China has been pursuing museums around the world demanding the return of stolen Chinese art and artifacts, particularly from a period that the Chinese define as the humiliation period, which occurred between the middle of the 19th century and the middle of the 20th century, when China was invaded, defeated, and occupied by foreign invaders. You can begin to understand the level of regard that the Chinese have for themselves when they define a period like this as the humiliation period. Africa has suffered through nearly 400 years of humiliation, but I've never heard it defined that way, and I think there's power in that. When you look at how Africa has dealt with the museum and art community in its efforts to have its artifacts returned, you can see the Chinese example, which is highly effective, and you can see the African example, which is pathetically ineffective. I'll start briefly with Ethiopia, a country of great civilization and culture, certainly equal to that of China in ancient times. In present times, it's a typical African basket case, can't feed its people, can't stop fighting with its people, and leaders can't stuff enough money in their pockets quick enough. In the late 19th century, Italy invaded Ethiopia and was soundly beaten by the Ethiopian army. Nearly 13,000 Italians were killed, and Italy became the laughingstock of Europe, beaten by those simple Africans. Well, it was one of the last great moments in African history where we effectively defended ourselves. Approximately 40 years later, Italy, led by Mussolini, returned to Ethiopia in search of that lost dignity and crushed the country of Ethiopia using mustard gas, tear gas, and superior weapons. They also stole a number of great historical Ethiopian monuments, some 20 stories high, and strangely enough placed them in their capital of Rome. At the end of World War II, the Ethiopians every year demanded a return of these monuments, these statues. They were never returned. Approximately 3 years ago, a bad thunderstorm struck a number of these monuments, breaking them into dozens of pieces. Surprise, surprise, at this time the Italian government had a change of heart and shipped these broken bits back to Ethiopia. Really a disgusting display of arrogance, but we have to understand the deeper context. Ethiopia, you cannot go to a country making demands with one hand and in the other hand begging for grains so you can feed your people. On the other hand, begging for trade opportunities. On the other hand, allowing, in the case of Italy, hundreds of millions of Italian goods to flow into your country, enriching the country of Italy. You can't have it both ways. You're either a beggar with no backbone and no dignity, or you're a country striving for greatness, making demands to be respected. One other example I'll give you is the great historic country of Nubia, so-called Sudan. About an hour and a half north of the capital of Sudan is an outcrop of around 12 smaller pyramids. Almost all of them are in honor of a great queen of Nubia. Unfortunately, almost all of them also have the tops blown off them. That was done by an Italian criminal who came to Nubia to steal and rob. He was successful. He then took the goods that he stole from Nubia, sold them to a German group, and today you have a massive Nubian art collection in Berlin, which is absurd even to say. The goods have not been returned. Nubia, so-called Sudan, has asked for them many times. But again, you have to ask the question, how did Nubia, this great civilization, fall so low that a small band of thieves, who I'm sure hired local Nubians to support them, could steal some of your great treasures? You have to be able to defend yourself. This was your humiliation period, and you should define it as such. You either have to commit to being strong and respected and independent, or remain a set of countries on a perpetual welfare campaign. The one other thing that Africa, the continent, can learn from China, the country, is that when China was invaded and nearly destroyed, it never allowed itself to be broken into small, little, irrelevant pieces. There are 53 countries in Africa. There, in fact, should be 20. But these 53 countries, most of which have potentates and dictators running them, would rather be the king of nothing than a senator of something far greater. China, for all your supposed failings in terms of human rights and state control, you represent a model that Africa must seriously consider. Thanks for listening.